For Arturo, summertime in Miami means playing basketball until dark, sipping mango smoothies, and keeping cool under banyan trees. And maybe a few shifts as junior lunchtime dishwasher at Abuela's restaurant. Maybe. But this summer also includes Carmen, a cute and funny girl who moves into Arturo's apartment complex and turns his stomach into a deep fryer. He almost doesn't notice the smarmy land developer who rolls into town and threatens to change it. Arturo refuses to let his family and community go down without a fight. And as he schemes with Carmen, Arturo discovers the power of poetry and protest through untold family stories and the work of José Martí. Here is a preview of The Epic Fail of Arturo Zamora by Pablo Cartaya. Note to self. I'm officially resigning from love. Time in a cell will do that to a kid. For the record, I didn't do it. Well, I didn't mean for what I did to blow up in my face. This should have been the best night of my life. I was going to save the restaurant, save the town, get the girl, make Abuela proud. I imagined myself riding a tan horse into the summer sunset, swatting any mosquito that tried to sting my awesomeness. Instead, I'm locked in a small room that smells like chorizo and stale popcorn, while my arch enemy continues to brainwash the community with reggaeton and free sunscreen. I'm sitting on a cracked vinyl sofa, staring out at my Abuela's restaurant from a tiny window while I await my sentence. The only thing I've learned from this crazy course of events is that no matter how much we try to believe David beat Goliath, the reality is that the big guy always wins, even if the big guy is actually a 5'3", flamboyantly dressed land developer with stupendously gelled hair. My little slingshot didn't even bruise his forehead. I also learned that love is a giant pretzel. Twisty, salty, it leaves you dry and thirsty. These pages contain every detail. Well, most details. I'll leave stuff out like I brushed my teeth but didn't floss, or I had a sandwich, or it was crazy humid that day in the park, which is why I wore a tank top, etc. But the big details of my epic fail are all here. Everything. Todo. So let me start the Puro disaster, the, total meltdown from the beginning. 3 Sundays ago, at our weekly family dinner at Abuela's restaurant, La Cocina de la Isla. For my entire life, La Cocina de la Isla has closed on Sundays. Year after year, customers have begged Abuela to open the restaurant, but she never has. She claimed Sundays for the Zamoras, and that was it. No more discussion. Ever since she'd handed over cooking duties to my mom, her oldest daughter, Abuela took her place on one of the sofas in the lounge area, smiling and surveying the whole scene. The chaos of so many people moving about and talking over each other didn't seem to bother her at all. She looked happiest when the entire Zamora clan crammed itself into La Cocina. My cousins Yolanda and Mari traded high school chismes on the outdoor patio. Martine and Brian sat at the bar area next to the kitchen to watch TV, flipping from MMA to basketball to hockey to baseball without settling on anything for more than 3 minutes. Benny and Brad, my younger cousins, zipped around tables pretending to be superheroes until they were scolded by my uncle for knocking over a chair. A few of my third cousins, 2 of my dad's best friends from high school, and cousins who I called cousins but weren't really my cousins, sat around in different spots waiting for food to be served. My dad brought out the urns containing my abuelo, tío abuelo, and my tatarabuelo, yes, my great-grandfather, and carefully lined them up on the small service bar next to the dinner table, where we would eventually sit for our meal. Yep, even the dead joined us, in spirit. The whole family was there, and everyone was in a really good mood. I was excited for a bunch of reasons. It was the Sunday before the official start of summer, and summer meant hanging out, swinging on banyan trees, looking for manatees in the canals throughout Cannel Grove, eating churros, because, let's be real, those deep-fried sugary sticks are all kinds of delicious, listening to music, and jumping around in Bren's bounce house. Yeah, I know I'm 13, but there's just something about a bounce house that makes me feel awesome. I had a full week to chill out with my best friends, Mop and Bren, before they both left town. And even though I'd be working at the restaurant a few days a week, it seemed like summer was off to a good start. Mop and Bren were honorary Zamoras and almost always attended Sunday dinner. They showed up a little late today, popping in from the patio entrance. Bren walked toward me, his arms extended to give me a hug. Hermano! I half hugged him and stared. It must have taken him hours to put his outfit together. That was probably why they were late. What are you wearing, Bren? I asked. I know, Mop said, shaking his head. I tried to tell him. I think he dressed up for Vanessa. Bren had been in love with my cousin Vanessa for as long as I could remember. She barely knew he existed. What? Bren said, pulling at the collar of his shirt, which opened into an embarrassingly deep V. Too formal? Dude, you're wearing sunglasses. So? We're inside. It's to keep the glare out, homie. The 305 can get pretty bright. Stop talking like Pitbull. You are not Pitbull, Mop cried and slapped his forehead. Last year, Bren tried to shave his head like Pitbull, but ended up with just one side of his head shaved because his mom caught him before he could finish. It took 6 months for the hair to grow back. At least take off the sunglasses, I said. Abuela doesn't like that. Mop and I shook our heads and waited for Bren to put the glasses into his blazer pocket before going to the lounge area to greet the rest of the family. When we got there, I noticed someone at the front door knocking politely. Through the window double doors, I made eye contact with a tall, reddish-brown-haired, honey-eyed girl, waving and smiling with a mouth full of tiny, colorful braces. Oh, they're here, everyone, Vanessa announced as she went to unlock the door. As the official orientation liaison to Sunday family dinner at La Cocina de la Isla, I'd like to welcome the Sanchez family. Carmen, you and I were like 6 when you last came to Miami, right? I think so, said Carmen, as she stood at the door and looked around. She said words a little funny, the way I do when I try to speak Spanish. My mom rushed over to Carmen. How was the flight, mi amor? Good, Madrina, thanks. My mom turned to Carmen's dad, Uncle Frank, who was not really my uncle, but we called him Uncle, because his wife was my mom's best friend. My mom gave Uncle Frank a kiss on each cheek and held both of his hands. You doing okay? Uncle Frank managed a sad sort of smile that reminded me why they were here. There are good days and bad days, Uncle Frank offered. Carrie, I can't thank you enough for letting us stay for the summer. Christina was my best friend, Frank. You are family to me. My mom saw me standing by the lounge and looked annoyed that I hadn't come over to greet them yet. Arturo, saluda a tu familia. The last time I'd seen Carmen, we'd just been kids. My mom and dad had gone to visit them about 6 months ago for Carmen's mom's funeral, but I was in school, so I couldn't go. You remember Carmen? My mom pushed Carmen in front of me. This was not the lanky, mutant fast cheetah girl I used to play tag with years ago. Carmen had changed. She was still tall, but those colorful braces made her look way mature. Her hair was really long and wavy. She carried a little book in her hand, thumbing the edges while looking at me shyly. Then, without warning, she grabbed my shoulders and double kissed me, one on each cheek. I felt a burning in my stomach, like a pot of oil was slowly starting to bubble inside. It was weird. And this has been a preview of the epic fail of Arturo Zamora.